So here we are back at the AMS annual meeting, and Raj, we've been here for a few days now. What is it that you've learned so far?
Well, first, Steve, thanks for giving me the extra time to learn a little bit. I needed that. I've learned that communication involves words and pictures, and that. Go ahead.
Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, one of the things I've been really interested in is this idea of how we use words. And so one of the things I've learned is that words can be a tremendous barrier to communication. So for example, a word like geostrophic vorticity. I love that word, right?
It does roll off the tongue, doesn't it, right? Geostrophic vorticity.
So it turns out that that kind of jargon can actually prevent the public from understanding the work we do. So that's one obvious thing I learned.
But there is an advantage to that too. You know, if you're sitting in an airplane, you don't want to talk to the person next to you, and they ask, what do? You can say geostrophic vorticity.
That's right.
And they'll go back to reading their book.
It's always good to talk about meteorology on an airplane. Right. But you know what, the part that I hadn't appreciated until this meeting is that ordinary words can be just as much a barrier. And belief is an example. We use the word belief in a really different way, I think, than people in other fields do. And so that's the part about words that I hadn't appreciated before this meeting.
And anything about the visual, the picture part?
Right, okay. So the visual part, I think, is that we're not as sophisticated in understanding visuals as we are in understanding words. There's a lot of research about what kinds of words are effective and how they're effective. And so, for example, there are people who can put words together to make really evocative descriptions of things that actually help people understand them. I heard a great example. There's something called the Arctic paradox, which is shorthand for the idea that as global warming happens, the poles will warm, but the mid-latitude continents might actually cool during winter. Isn't that great?
Right, yeah.
Right? And the other thing I learned, another great example of a phrase, numbers numb. So this is a great thing. I found out there's this study where they actually asked people to read a little description of a young girl's life, and then they asked another group to read statistics about poverty in Africa. The young girl was in Africa. And then they asked a third group to read both. And they asked, as the people left the study, they were given $5, and then they were asked if they wanted to make a donation. And guess which group donated the most?
I'm going to guess not the numbers, because they got numb.
Right, but you would think, I thought it would be the group that got the numbers and the story, because it would reach both parts of the brain, the affective, right? Wrong. Wrong.
That's an important word.
Thank you, yeah. It turns out that stories are what connect with people. Over and over we've found that out. So people who study communication realize that it's the stories that connect, not the numbers, and not even sort of the choice of words. It's that personal story. But we don't know as much about what kind of images connect. And that's the thing that is exciting to me, is that we can learn about what kinds of images connect. And we've seen that images have a tremendous power to connect, but I don't think there's as much research about which ones.
Well, we have a few more days to see if we can answer that question.
That's right. Maybe I'll learn something else.
That's right. Thanks.